Here's another one of those stair building tips that I used all the time to lay out accurate stair stringers. And accurate stair stringers are usually going to have level treads or level steps. They won't be leaning a little forward or leaning a little backwards because you're not going to be rounding off the decimal. You're going to be using the decimal to lay out the stair stringers within a 32nd of an inch. And if you're going to be building a set of stairs with more than 15 steps, you might consider taking it up to the next step, which would be a 64th of an inch. And if I zoom in on the framing square here, you can see where we have two different markings for our fractions. In this one here, it's divided into an 1/8 of an inch. In this one here, it's divided into a 16th of an inch. And if this is the side you're dealing with on your framing square, then it might be a little bit more difficult. But I usually just divide this into sections. So if I was to go in between the middle here, I would have a 16th of an inch. If I split that in half, then I'm going to have a 32nd of an inch. And if I'm dealing with the 16th of an inch increments on the framing square, I just need to divide that in half. So for example, if 16 32nds is a half of an inch and I needed 17 32nds of an inch, I'm simply going to make sure that the center of this area right here lines up with the edge of the lumber that I'm trying to lay out the stair stringer on. And that will look something like this. Here's the edge of the stringer here. And here's the mark that represents the 32nd of an inch past the half-inch mark, or 6 and 17 32nds of an inch. And right in between the 16th of an inch mark I was referencing to in the previous pictures. So here we have a half-inch, quarter of an inch, half of a half-inch, quarter inch. Half of a quarter of an inch is going to be an 1/8 of an inch. Half of an 1/8 of an inch in between these two lines here, I'm going to end up with a 16th of an inch. And then if I go in between the two lines that represent a 16th of an inch, I'm going to end up with a 32nd of an inch. So not that difficult to do on a framing square using the 16th of an inch measurement lines. So the moral to this story is simply start rounding your numbers up or down to the nearest 32nd of an inch and not the nearest 1/8 or quarter of an inch. Here is a problem one of our viewers was having interpreting the walk line and the stair tread depth measurements for winder stairs. Now you could be dealing with a stairway shape like this, which would be one that would have the 6-inch minimum requirement for the shortest part of the stair step, or you could be dealing with something like this. And I'm going to use this one in our example here to see if I can make sense out of this in case you need to explain this to one of your building inspectors. Now, the measurement can be measured from a variety of different points. For example, the walk line is going to be located 12 inches in from the inside of the stairway. And I just made a video on that a few days ago, so check that one out. I actually made that video to help with this one here. So if I just go ahead and come in 1 foot and then just connect the dots here and go with the 3/8 of an inch maximum variation I'm allowed, then the building inspector shouldn't have any problem with this particular measurement method here. However, they might have a problem if they come in a foot here, and then measure 12 inches or a foot off of this point here, where we might be off about a 1/2 inch. Now keep in mind that if your winder stairway, you start with a 90-degree angle here, we divide it into 3 sections, we're going to end up with 3 30-degree sections. And this is usually how I calculate the walk line for a winder stairway. I do it in the same way as I would for a circular stairway. And that would be to simply draw a circle from the pivot point. So come in 12 inches and then draw a curved line which should represent the walk line for a set of winder stairs or a set of circular stairs, providing us with the same size steps. And I think this one here would work for most building inspectors. However, if you want to, you need to follow the building code book and come off of each step with a perpendicular measurement. Then just simply do something like this. Come in 1 foot or 12 inches on each one of the steps, and then come off of that step at a 90-degree angle. They're requiring it to be horizontally located, which for my interpretation would be a 90-degree angle. However, that might not be the building inspector's interpretation, and if that's the case, you might be able to revert back to one of the other examples I provided you with. And then measure the distance in between the foremost projecting edge forward. For example, you might have a nosing or an overhang on the tread. You're going to measure from that point and not the face of the riser, providing us with equal measurements again here. And in my opinion, as long as you're working with the same angle here, if I have 3 steps with a 90-degree angle, I should have 30 degrees coming off of the pivot point. If I had 4 steps, then I would have 22.5-degree angles. As long as these angles are the same, then you should end up with consistent walk lines, no matter how you divide it. And that's what most building inspectors are going to be looking for. In this video, I will be providing you with information on how you can install a skirt board on a stairway that has a nosing on the steps. So that would be an overhang. And in our example here, it's going to be a 1-inch overhang. And the thickness of the tread is going to also be 1 inch for making it as easy as possible on me. So just remember those numbers, 1 inch tall, 1 inch out. And then let's go ahead and grab our skirt board. And of course, your skirt board might not look like this. And of course, you can use a variety of different materials for skirt board. Now, this is the second video in this series. I'm not going to go over all the details about laying out the marks. I would suggest watching that video, and I will put a link to that video in either the description area or the comment area. And of course, you can always just set a straight edge like the framing square on top of the steps and mark them. And keep in mind that our stairway here is perfectly drawn. There are no mistakes. All of the steps and riser heights are exactly the same. However, yours might not be that way. So you're going to have to pay attention to that when laying out your steps, because it's not going to do you a lot of good to draw a line from this step here if it's tilted a little bit, if you're going to be dropping the skirt board down and using this line here for this step here. However, it might work just fine if you're going to be sliding the skirt board forward and using this line here for this step here. And this isn't always going to be easy to lay out a piece of skirt board that is going to be extremely accurate. However, I will be providing details for how you can cover up all of your mistakes in future videos. Then we're going to add our nosing to the lines that we've drawn on our skirt board. And I would strongly suggest measuring each one of the nosings, just in case some of the measurements are off a little bit. So you should end up with something that looks like this. Then you can go ahead and cut it, and I would strongly suggest be as careful as you can when cutting all of these marks. Then you can go ahead and slide it into place, and if everything was cut correctly, it should look something like this. However, if it doesn't, you can always start making adjustments and doing a little more trimming to modify the skirt board. However, if you don't like that idea, or if you have rounded stair nosings, then we can go ahead and cut a section of the stair tread. And you can see here where I have marked it the width of the skirt board and then cut it out. So this is probably the easiest way you're going to come across, because you won't have to cut this right here, which is not going to be easy, especially if the front of the treads are not square and might be curved or cut at a bevel. Then simply slide it in place. And if it looks as good as the one that I've done here, then you have done a fantastic job. at shaping a piece of skirt board to go around some steps with a nosing. Due to high lumber prices, and contractors aren't going to be ordering 5 or 6 extra boards just so they can get a few straight boards for their stair stringers. And this wasn't a problem when I first started out. If I had some bad boards, I would just simply flip them off of the pile. I wouldn't use them. But that's not the case today. So how do we deal with using crowned lumber to cut straight stair stringers? And I think the best suggestion I could give you would be to snap a line on the most convenient part of the board to create a straight line. And then use the circular saw to cut a straight line, or the straightest line you possibly can. Or use this line to lay out your stair stringers. Then you can either discard the piece that you cut or attach it to the other side. And yes, this works. I'm not saying the structural engineer is going to like it. But if all you ordered was 3 pieces of lumber and you don't have a straight one in the bunch, then you can go ahead and lay out the stair stringer using the straight edge. Then we can go ahead and cut our stair stringer pattern, and then use that pattern in the most creative way we possibly can by setting it on top of the other lumber that isn't straight and trying to position it into place to create the strongest stair stringers we possibly can. And some of you are probably wondering, well, what am I going to do here? Well, if I have something like this, or possibly something like this, I might just leave it, depending on what I'm using for my risers and my treads. For example, if I'm using 1/2-inch plywood for my risers, I'm probably going to want to cut a piece and attach it to the stringer. However, if I'm using 2x8s for the risers and 1 1/8 plywood for the treads, I might not need to. So again, just simply position the lumber in whatever way you think it's going to provide you with the most strength for your project. Then simply grab your pencil and mark along the sides of the pattern until you have a nice stair stringer that will create a straight upper section of the stairway, and hope you don't need to drywall the bottom of it. Here's another one of those things I found the Stairmasters teaching on the internet and thought that I would kind of bring it to your attention. And that's using larger hangers for your stair stringer connection to an upper landing floor or even a ledger like we have here. Now, this is the way that I connected stair stringers for years. I toe-nailed or angle-nailed 16D nails into the side of the stair stringer. And I would usually put between 3 or 4 on each side. And I'm guessing I used this to connect more than 5,000 stair stringers to a ledger, a floor, or a landing. And believe it or not, I've never had to make a repair on a stair stringer that was connected like this. But feel free to let us know if you have, or email me some pictures of those connections that failed. Next up, let's take a look at the most currently available construction detail for attaching stair stringers to a ledger, floor, or landing with a hanger. And I don't really know how much better one connection is going to be over the other, except for the fact that maybe the manufacturers of these products get to sell more of them. But that's not the reason why I made the video. This is, and even though I don't see it very often, I do see it every once in a while. And that's the fact that some of you are using larger hangers. And I get it, the toenail connection doesn't seem to be as good as using a floor joist hanger. And if the floor joist hanger is better than toenailing, then what would be the next best thing? To use a larger hanger. And I'm not about to suggest you're ever going to have a problem with cutting 2 or 3 inches out of the bottom of a stair stringer, unless it looks something like this. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, and came across a few times on the internet. And really what we have here is an extremely weak connection. And to solve this problem, all we need to do is have a longer ledger and then maybe use the nailing method or the smaller hanger. And I'm not about to suggest a larger hanger might not be the best option on longer stair stringers that might be heavier, something like a 4x12 or larger. However, for a notched or unnotched stringer that's going to be less than 10 feet long, you're probably not going to need a heavy duty hanger or even a hanger period to connect the upper stringers to a ledger, floor, platform, or landing. Here's a quick video. Feel free to share your comments with me. I'm just wondering if this is a good idea or if it's just going to add more money to the cost of a building project. And that would be more than one grippable handrail that could be used by a variety of different sized people. Currently, all we have is a standard handrail that might be difficult for shorter people to use or taller people who don't fall into the average height. Or is this already a building code in your area? Let us know if you think it's a good idea or maybe something that might not be needed in residential projects, but commercial and public projects. Here is another request from one of our viewers who has a sagging set of stairs. These stair stringers are sagging and they don't want to remove them. They want to repair them. So here it is. And of course, what we're looking at here is a straight stair stringer. Let's go ahead and throw in a curved and sagging stair stringer. And even though this might be an extreme case, it's still going to provide you with enough information to figure out whether or not you want to remove and replace all of the stair stringers with new stair stringers or use the method I'm going to suggest in this video. So again, we have a sagging stair stringer that would be difficult to raise into its original position. Some sagging stair stringers will simply require you to add a structural support like this one here after the stair stringer has been repositioned. And something like this might also require a structural footing or even a wall if you can build it instead of using an individual post and footing for each one of the stair stringers. So the first thing I'm going to suggest, even though this is going to be difficult for some of you, will be to cut a stair stringer that is going to work. And I know for our particular viewer, this is going to be difficult. However, I do not see any other way to do it. And after you have cut the new stair stringer, firmly secure it with screws to the damaged stair stringer. Then we're simply going to cut some scrap blocks of wood and position them in a way to where they can be traced on the other side with a pencil. Just simply place it like we have here sitting on top of the existing stair stringer. And then once it's in place, just grab a pencil and trace a few lines onto the blocks. And that would end up looking something like this. And then you're simply going to cut the blocks to fit. Now, I don't know if this one here is going to work as good as either this method here or this method up here, where we're using vertical blocks here with either a filler block in between them or having a block go over the lower one. So we have this method here, and then we have this method here. Or we can place the blocks on top of the stringers like this and then fill this piece in later. So again, we're going to be attaching a new stair stringer to the existing one and then using it to calculate the lengths of blocks that we are going to securely fasten to the existing stair stringer with either screws, some type of building hardware, or maybe even plywood. And I won't be able to provide you with a preferred method because it's going to be better to cut new stair stringers and replace the damaged ones. And of course, the last thing I need to point out is that these are only suggested repair methods. They might not be approved by your local building authorities or engineers. And thanks for watching. Also, don't forget to visit our website. We have an organized list of our videos there. You might have a difficult time finding that anywhere else.